Nice chains, bro. You look like you popped out of a 90s video game. Where do I put the quarter?
Bobby, that's not funny.
So the Knuckles show finally came out, and if you've seen anyone talking about it, you already know. People are really divided on what they think. Some people are saying it was fantastic, it was so great, what an awesome addition to the Sonic cinematic universe. Whereas others are saying it's the worst piece of Sonic media to ever be released. That's a bold statement. There's been a lot of bad Sonic media put out, and that's just talking about the official media. So that begs the question, which side is correct? Is it awful? Is it a terrible show? Or is it the best show they could have made? Technically, we can't really get to a correct and incorrect answer because obviously it depends on an individual's opinion. But I wanted to compare the arguments together and then give my opinion on what I thought of the show and what I agree or disagree with on both sides. And before we start, there will be spoilers in this video, so if you don't want any and you haven't watched the show yet, click off now and come back later. Please come back later. So majority of what people like or dislike about the show is the same exact thing. Whether that be how much Knuckles was in the show, how much focus was put on the human characters and how they performed, and 3, the humor. So for that first point, a few days before the show premiered, I think it was Kotaku that put out that Knuckles was not in the show very much. That scared a lot of people. That scared me. I've been through that before. Made me think of 2014 Godzilla. Luckily, they learned from that and fixed it by a lot. So I still had high hopes. Now the show came out, I think most people agree that Knuckles was in it plenty. I definitely agree that Knuckles was in it pretty much the whole time. Obviously, yes, there's scenes without him. There is one episode where he is barely in, but he wasn't needed and was specifically not supposed to be part of that story and episode. Whether you think that was a good idea or not, that's up to you. I can see why somebody wouldn't like it, but for just that one episode, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I have seen a couple people saying that Knuckles wasn't in the show nearly enough, which, again, I can understand that, but I really think it's an overreaction or an overstatement to say that Knuckles wasn't in the show nearly enough. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. Speaking of that though, the second point, the human characters. Like I said, this is Knuckles' show, at least in title, but it's just as much about Wade. Wade Whipple was the derpy cop in the first 2 Sonic movies. That was the deputy, I think, for Tom. In the movies, I thought he had some good funny moments. I thought he had some pretty crappy cringy moments. In the Knuckles show, it's kind of the same, but I think there were a lot more good moments than there were really cringy moments. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of cringy moments, but they didn't drag down the show for me, at least. And that's been another discussion online about the human characters, is how not so great some of them are written, but let's save that for humor. The human characters, for the most part, played their roles well and added to the story. They weren't just there to fill up space. Mostly. Honestly, pretty much all but one character, I would say, should be there for the story. Yes, some of them weren't the best actors, but that was probably how they were written to be as. Some of them had some weird over-the-top acting or just odd writing, but for the most part, I think it was easily overlooked. I was expecting the kind of stuff that they were doing, so it didn't really shock me and it didn't really make me like upset that it was happening. I just kind of waited for it to end, and then the next part was good, you know, whatever that episode may be that I was watching. Now, of course, the people that liked the show, most of them did seem to enjoy Wade, at least. Wade's mom seems to be a fan favorite. She was good. I liked a lot of her stuff. The one human character that shouldn't have been in that show at all, we'll go ahead and start with on point 3, the humor. Now, if you've watched the first 2 Sonic movies, you know what kind of humor that the movies were going with, and so the show would go with too. So let me start off by saying the first episode, which seems to be the highest rated episode of the series, was directed by Jeff Fowler, the director of the first 2 Sonic movies, who, I must say, does a fantastic job. And the writer for the first and second episodes was John Whittington, who wrote for the second Sonic movie and who is also writing for Sonic 3. The second episode I don't think was received quite as well as the first episode of Knuckles, but the first 2 episodes are much more liked than the following episodes, which were directed and written by different people, which is why most people seem to think that that's why it went downhill in their opinion. And I do kind of agree with that. I will say the first 2 episodes were a lot better. The first episode especially. And I'm mostly talking about the humor. I honestly can't think of one joke in those 2 episodes that didn't land. And if there was one, it was so small that I just went right past it and kept watching and forgot all about it. But in the following episodes, especially with one character, there's a lot of quote-unquote humor that is just awful. Awful. Let's talk about Wanda. I don't know who this actress is. I'm sure she's great in other roles. They chose her for a reason. Here, I don't know what was happening. I don't know if it has to be... No, it has to be the writing. With the funny lines and the jokes that she was given to say, I don't think any actor could make them funny. Like the whole brother-sister fighting thing didn't work, like at all. It was so awkward and weird. Actually, one of Wanda's scenes was released before the show came out as a teaser, and it got mercilessly dumped on by pretty much everyone, myself included. And rightfully so. It's bad. That scene was terrible. Until Knuckles showed up. Then it actually got pretty cool. I do feel bad ragging on this character, but, scratch that. I feel bad ragging on this actress because, like I said, I don't know what else she's been in. I'm sure she's great. She has credentials. She got on the show, so she must be good in other places, but this show was not it. But aside from just her, a lot of the humor in the last couple of episodes was really cringy. It's what I would normally call Disney Channel humor. Like, without the laugh track behind it, you wouldn't know you were supposed to be laughing. Wait a second. There was one joke that Wanda's character made that did make me laugh. Well, it was more of a visual gag than a joke, but it worked. It was funny. There's a scene where her and the mom are handcuffed and she refuses to get unlocked by Wade because, I'm so much better than Wade, I can't do that. It's real funny. She gets left in the room because she just will not let him unlock the handcuffs. She's gone for a little bit and then, stuff happens. Anyway, she comes out and she says, I got it. I dislocated my thumb and did it. Thumbs up. And her thumb is like way out here. I was like, oh, that made me laugh. That was a really funny joke. Obviously, it's a very predictable joke, but it worked. Really funny. I loved that one. So, at least one joke from the Wanda character was, I think, pretty good. So the humor was a very big divider for a lot of people, but not as divisive as you might think. Of course, the people that didn't like the show didn't really like much of the humor at all, but both the people that liked the show and disliked the show seem to agree on the bad parts of the humor, and at least agree on the better jokes. The people that like the show seem to give it a little bit more leeway, which I did as well. I can look past all the cringiness as long as the show itself is good and there's still some good humor to the show. And don't get me wrong, the last 4 episodes were not terrible. I liked the episodes. I laughed at some of the jokes. It wasn't god-awful. There were a few big misses here and there, but nothing to ruin the show in my opinion. And a lot of people on the I like the show side would probably agree. But the more I read from the people that didn't like the show, seems that they were being much more critical because of how much they love the property. And I can respect that. I don't think they have to be so mean about it, but who am I to talk? I've been trashing Christian Bale and Christopher Nolan's Batman movies forever, when those films were pretty much universally loved, even until today. So I can see where they're coming from, and they're not saying they hate it because they hate the Sonic franchise. It's because they love the Sonic franchise, and because they love Knuckles, and because they've been liking the movies. Mostly. My opinion was that I didn't expect much out of this show. I thought it was going to be good. I thought I was going to enjoy it. That's what I was thinking going in. I was excited for it. I didn't think it was going to be anything huge. I knew it was going to be a spin-off, which is fine. Anything to do with that Sonic universe, I want to see more of. I was totally happy for whatever they wanted to give us. I did have one big expectation that was not met. I assumed either the final scene or a mid-credit scene, which was disappointing, would be a reveal of maybe another character. I thought maybe Rouge would show up, or just something that was hinting towards, or at least foreshadowing something in Sonic 3. But that didn't happen. I was disappointed about that, but it's not that big a deal to me, especially since we're probably going to get some Sonic 3 stuff now that the show is out. So that's what I expected going in. Not anything crazy. It wasn't going to be big and bombastic like the movies, or at least not as big and crazy as the movies, but still fun and enjoyable. Cringy humor here and there, but still decent writing, which is what I got, and I'm happy with that. These people that really, really hated the show. I could be wrong. Maybe this is some of them. Maybe this is none of them. I feel like they were expecting something a lot more serious or a lot more detailed, just a lot better in general, which they didn't get. And, you know, setting those high expectations like that and then getting what we got, I can see why they're angry. I can see why they're upset and don't like the show. But some people will be a lot more critical than others, and that's totally fine. So I can respect their opinions on it, definitely. I might not agree with all their points, but it's their opinion, and it's coming from a place of love for the franchise, so you gotta respect it. So my opinion on the Knuckles show, if you haven't figured it out already, I liked it. Definitely wasn't the best Sonic media out there, but was it the worst Sonic media out there? No. Anyway, what did you guys think of the show? Anyway, what did you guys think? Did you love the Knuckles show? Did you think the humor was good enough? Or did you hate the Knuckles show and wish it never came out or was something completely different? Let me know down in the comments section below, and I will see you next time on The Z-Man Show.